Oh God. We're gonna cover this video. Now, if you guys have not known, guess what? I like Dragon Ball. In particular, I actually like Dragon Ball Super. Now I know, like I've made points and like the Dragon Ball fandom is pissing me the fuck off. And what I'm saying that pisses me off is a lot of the fandom, and I don't know if I was just old enough not to identify with some of the problems, but young enough still to enjoy it. And maybe the writer part of me, like, I hate Dragon Ball fandom. Like, for real. I fucking love Dragon Ball. I fucking enjoy some of the shit. Like, I feel, one, let's just say it, Dragon Ball GT was hot garbage. Hot garbage. But, and this is a but, it kept the flame alive. I also was kind of the people that liked the original Dragon Ball for the adventure aspect. Some of the characters kind of outgrew their usefulness. Some of those characters found particular new life. And oh yes, I have watched all of Dragon Ball Z Abridged twice. I'm actually was trying to show my friend, trying to show a friend of mine some of the Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Bridge. Fuck it, let's just say Dragon Ball Bridge. Let me turn this down. And did I just turn my TV off? So yeah, Dragon Ball Bridge, and it's fucked up because like the remote that I have turns on my turns on all three TVs, but it turns off. Shit, this is ruining my whole soliloquy. There we go. But Dragon Ball Z Abridged, and it's funny because Toei knows about Dragon Ball Z. I think they tried to take it down once, but then they realized, oh shit, it's actually giving us publicity. And I think Toei really likes the fact that they had Dragon Ball Z, so much so they use some of the same jokes that Dragon Ball Z Abridged actually uses. Fun fact that they do. Um, and it's just, man, what I hate is the fandom that gets upset about a few different things. One, they get upset about Gohan. Like, for real, Gohan was never the hero type. He was a reactionary character. And as we all know about reactionaries, they're fucking stupid. Even if they are smart. But Gohan is a reactionary character. I don't like I see a lot of people talking about how they identify with, like, basically they don't say it in that many words, but they wanted Gohan to be better. All he is a scholar and like a father that's there and protects his kid and who's there for his kid and not always off somewhere training. Wow, I wonder why that's a fucking problem. I know why it's a problem. I get it. I joke, but you know, I know why people are upset about Gohan, which kind of makes no sense to me. And I would actually say this, and we're gonna get into the video soon, but they think that he has wasted potential. I'm like, how? He's like one of the strongest fighters in the universe. Well, he had so much potential as a kid. Yeah, and he's still one of the strongest fighters in the universe. Well, we thought he was going to be better than Goku or Vegeta. No, but he's still one of the strongest fighters in the universe. But I grew up, he had the rage boost. Exactly my point. You see him as your POV character. I personally, I'm a big fan of Vegeta. I know, right? Shocking. But it's the fandom that kind of miffs me about some of the stuff from Dragon Ball Z, some of the stuff of Dragon Ball Super. And one of the people that I watch from time to time is totally not Mark. He has some great drawings. Um, More so, even though I've probably been drawing Dragon Ball for longer than he has been drawing it since I was 12 and I'm 30. I'm 30, about to be 38 now. But even though he's probably been drawing Dragon Ball longer than what I have, it's still, I think that I grew up in a generation where even if I identify with characters, I still understood the narrative of the story. And that's one of the things that Totally Not Mark actually does too. He understands story writing and he has a different perspective. So him, which I think they know each other, Masako acts, all of these guys feel like there's so much wasted potential in Super, and they can point to great episodes, but they don't like some of the stories that came up with Super. And I think one of the biggest failings is, well, let's just do this. I'm gonna actually review a video, and let's just have that conversation. So let's go. Forgot to turn up the volume there for a second.
One of these shows has more detractors than the other, and I wanted to iron out why. Specifically to communicate my feelings on how one might feel much less emotionally rich, visually diverse, and structurally sound than the other. And to do this, I wanted to look through the prism of the Saiyan Prince, Vegeta. I want to look through how these two shows structured their stories around him to deliver his highs, his lows, and how they attempted to deliver the most memorable moments for the character. From when he was first introduced during the Saiyan arc in the 1980s to modern day tellings of the story within Dragon Ball Super's manga during the Moro arc, I will be following Vegeta's journey.
Alright, so, yeah, I get it. Comparing the two series through a POV character. And I get it. I get why somebody would actually take the time to do that and go through these steps specifically in order to make sure that they show contrasts and comparisons with one series to another. But I think that's where a big problem lies. You're looking at an arc of what was Dragon Ball Z? 20 years? Literally, it was like, okay, let's be charitable and say 15. Gohan was 5. From that time to the Cell Saga, he was 10 at the Cell Saga, and then from the Cell Saga. So, yeah, so, no, it was actually about 12 years. 12 years. So, we're looking at that time frame. And basically what we're seeing is arc over 12 years. You know, a lot of things change in the 12-year time frame. But you want to look at Super over a time frame of actually what I think they said it amounted to was a little bit over a year. But let's go ahead. Let's see. Let's continue.
Dragon Ball Super sequel series has been labeled everything under the sun, from disappointing to tragic, with plenty loving the show from start to finish. So let's see where the differences lie and if they can be justified. This is Vegeta, Super's boring sequel.
Alright, so let's just address that title. Super wasn't boring. I'm sorry, it wasn't. Like, I challenge anyone who actually says that Super was boring to sit back and stand alone, say that Super was actually just boring. You can't say that. Like literally, Super had it did have its ups and downs, and just showing how people forget with Dragon Ball Z, we actually saw Dragon Ball Z go. Sometimes it was years between the two of them. Super had a constant stream. No pun intended. It had a constant stream of just set piece after set piece, story after story. It kept going. It didn't stop. And you can probably say that was a failing of Super, and that let me see. You can say that was a failing of Super, that it kept going. It was no way of sorry, just trying to color this. But it kept going, and it you never got a time to really breathe between the arcs. You did in Dragon Ball Z. You did. It was just the nature of actually having a series that was continue to be going while the author was actually working on it. But let's continue.
To borrow a quote from Robert McKee, the function of structure is to provide progressively building pressures that force characters into more and more difficult dilemmas where they must make more and more risk-taking choices and actions, gradually revealing their true natures, even down to the unconscious self. This is an important and somewhat illuminating quote to me because when I use it in conjunction with someone like Vegeta, it can be incredibly accurate in describing his journey through Dragon Ball Z as it can most characters. But what's interesting specifically about Vegeta is that he began not as one with the pressure being put on him, but the one applying pressure to Goku and the others in the Saiyan saga, which means...
So, let's just actually address that particular point. Yes, Vegeta was actually... he was an antagonist. Actually, not too much unlike Piccolo. You can actually say Piccolo Jr. was the architect for Vegeta, or his turn. And what Piccolo went through in Dragon Ball Z, was a short kind of stint of how Vegeta's arc would actually reflect. But it goes more than that, because yes, Vegeta actually reflected even more growth than what you saw with Piccolo. And I know people feel like Piccolo got pushed to the background. Because he fucking did. Toriyama was like, oh, got the leg. No, I'm just joking, but let's continue.
Means that despite someone being utilized as a down-and-out, two-dimensional, bad-to-the-bone character, as long as it's carried out with consideration as well as the correct amount of time and effort, any character can go from being the one applying the pressure to being the one changed by it. You just need to have the right sort of pressure with the correct motivations. The Namek arc directly after the fight with Goku on Earth can be seen as the first time Vegeta really started to garner some emotional depth and range as a character.
Okay, this part I don't too much disagree with, but I think a lot is said about how, oh, you learned how Vegeta was, like, you actually saw the character of Vegeta open up just a little bit, and maybe it was an anime only, but I did read the manga. During his fight with Goku, he actually did show, like, it wasn't as one-dimensional as this fight between Piccolo. Vegeta actually started to have fun. He got pissed because this motherfucker was, I don't know. He was always meant to be, ironically, a meat shield for a while. And of course, we know Toriyama was writing by the seat of his pants. But let's continue.
Typically speaking, before you introduce a character into a story, whether it be a villain, hero, mentor, etc., most writers will tell you it's important to fully understand the background of and know the personality of the character first. And in the case of Vegeta, it was important to fully understand what he wants, what he needs, and what he was capable of as a character. These are specific.
So, now, he brings up a point in this video, and I would say the wounded character, the characterization of Trunks, actually is fucking awesome. I don't really like, touching on the point that I was making earlier, I don't really like his analysis of, oh, the best Gohan was Kid Gohan. Fuck no. But we're not going to have that discussion right now. Maybe at a later date. But the relationship with Change Vegeta wasn't his. I'm getting ahead because I watched this video. Trunks changed Vegeta, and not Baby Trunks, but the one that he was just the most disgusted with. But let's continue.
Specific topics I've covered in other videos like my one on Trunks, so if you haven't seen that already, check it out. The thing your character wants will almost always be something external, something physical. He's trying to solve his inner emptiness with external solutions. He thinks that if he could just get this one thing, everything will be perfect. That he'll be powerful, respected, and most importantly, fulfilled. Because at the moment, he most definitely is not happy. Now, oftentimes with characters like this, the things that they want could be perfectly respectable goals. Now, in the case of Vegeta, universe-wide domination isn't exactly reasonable, but nevertheless, issues arise when these characters are pursuing goals that are furthering their enslavement to the lies they hold to be true.
Alright, so let's just address this. And I think this is one of the key things about Vegeta that a lot of the people actually miss. And I mean, like, I respect Mark's whole thing about making sure that we address the fact that you want to go look at writing and you want to actually use tools from writing that would actually facilitate, you know, some of the things that you want to actually facilitate or explaining the purpose. And the research that Mark does is actually fucking awesome when it comes down to it. But I think he misses some key points. He's looking at the science of, and when I say science, I mean the art of the science of the writing. Cool, great. I applaud you like that. My man. But I think what is actually missing is also understanding that human element of things. Vegeta wasn't looking for world domination. He was looking for fucking respect. His thing about, oh, my Saiyan pride, like, no, it's about respect. And you saw it in the Dragon Ball Super movie. His father fucking hated Frieza. He barely can stand King Cole, but when it came to Frieza, he wanted to put that motherfucker in the ground using his fucking tail as a shovel. And a lifetime of that, a lifetime of being disrespected and treated like you some sort of fucking criminal because you're scared of somebody. A little bit close to home, right? But treating like a life criminal because you're scared of the potential of somebody, that would fuck you up. So the first thing that you ask for is fucking respect. Now, does he feel that? I don't know. World domination would give me respect? Is Vegeta actually thinking, even back then, like, all this talk of pride? No, he just wanted fucking respect. That's all it was, dog. And I'm sorry, you missed that. And I'm not trying to come down on you just poorly, but it's just like it was actually just about respect. It wasn't about. It was about respect, but let's continue.
Which leads me to what Vegeta's character actually needs. Now, this is the part a lot of novice writers forget about, and it's the part that gives the most emotional depth to it.
So after breakfast time, it is time to take my vitamin. So again, this is a Persona Nutrition.
A character. So, at this point in the story, Vegeta has been living by this toxic misconception. A misconception over what was truly important. Something that holds him back and something that prevents him from growing emotionally. Now, the antidote to this, in a word, simply is the truth. That it doesn't make you weak to care about someone or show affection for them. In a more general sense, the thing your character will need oftentimes won't be physical. It won't be material.
Okay, so I would agree specifically, and I know I'm taking this way too serious, but fuck, it's shit I think about. I would agree that, yeah, of course, he needed to learn how to care about people. But that's not what he needed. That's not at all what Vegeta needed. If you want to see the poster child of toxic masculinity, performative masculinity, it was Vegeta. And I will say this. What he needed was to know that no matter how piece of a shit that he was as a character, no matter how garbage as a character he was, it was a fact that people could still care about him. That's what he needed. That's what his problem was, that he felt inadequate. Yeah, of course. He lived with he was a prince of inadequacies, and he lived under the rule of the emperor of inadequacies. My Frieza voice is horrible. He was taught how to be a man by, yeah, we're gonna call Frieza a man. He responds to he, so we're gonna call him a man. That you have to not show any type of fear, any sort of weakness. He was taught that, and it wasn't a fun lesson. Let's be honest. Frieza fucked over Vegeta. He fucked him up like nobody's business. Vegeta actually learned some very painful lessons. That the only time you get people to respect you, because again, that's what he was looking for, respect. He wasn't looking, he was also looking for, here's the thing, admiration without somebody fearing him. But let's continue.
Usually hinging on some emotional characteristic being denied or pushed to the wayside. In Vegeta's case, it was empathy and love. I mean, it wouldn't be much of a story if all Vegeta's misconception was physical. With it being an emotional, abstract concept, it lends credence to the likelihood of him not noticing it and having to be taught to embrace it later. However, because emotional growth isn't exactly a tangible thing and really can't be seen, as a writer you need a physical embodiment or manifestation of the emotional growth Vegeta in this case undergoes. This is why we have scenes like his death on Namek where Goku arrives demonstrating to him all of his mistakes, and Trunks being shot by cells showing him that he really does care about his son. It's nothing more.
Alright, so I'm going to actually make a couple points right here. He actually started respecting Goku way before this. Way before his death on Namek. But you actually see what was in his dying breaths. You actually see what his loss was. His loss wasn't the fact that, oh, he needed to care about somebody. No. He felt horrible that I don't know, some big snake newt just treated him like shit. And he wanted to visit that upon everybody. And when he saw somebody to say, when he saw somebody that actually, not from his strength he was taken aback by, but by the fact that, how do I put it? Somebody had the tenacity to keep going on, even though they were ranked as a lower being. They had the tenacity to keep going, keep pushing. He was like, wow, if he can do it, so can I. That's what Goku taught Vegeta. That if he can do it, so can I. And yes, you had the instances where he was like, I'm falling behind, but it was, if he can do it, so can I. Because that's what we Saiyans do. If one Saiyan can do it, so can I. But let's continue.
More than a split-second realization in a number of cases, all delivered by consistent pressure being applied to this specific area of his psyche. However, the most...
Oh, just to also drive home another point, it was Toriyama-esque, I made up a word, that Trunks died in the same fashion that Vegeta died. A hole in the chest, shot through the heart. But what was interesting, everybody talk about the super scene where he's like, that's my boomer. Vegeta got pissed when Cell killed Trunks. I mean, like, Lenny actually did it like funny when he did it for Dragon Ball Z Bridge, but it was just like, that's my baby boy. That shit was awesome. And it harkens back to when they did the King Cole, my baby boy. But it was just like, you just felt it. Like, you just felt it more. And it was just like, people like forget about that moment. So, yeah, let's continue. What was I to say? Let's continue, yeah.
The interesting part of this character's growth has to be how it's all tied together in Dragon Ball Z. Near the end of his story, in the final saga of the show, Vegeta is asked as a character to choose between what he really wants and what he actually needs. In his specific case, he's asked to choose between the ultimate power he wants to destroy Goku and the family and loved ones he actually needs. This is the reason why, for many, Vegeta's return to the dark side in the Buu saga was so powerful and compelling. Through years of great, terrific character building, we fully understood what Vegeta wanted, and we knew he was making a massive mistake in taking this course of action. However, we could all understand his...
Okay, let's just address one thing. Does anybody really believe that Vegeta ever lost control of himself in the scene where he was quote unquote taken over by Babidi? I mean, like, does anybody actually believe that shit? I mean, like, he was telegraphing to take me over, Babidi. He was telegraphing this shit. Fuck, does anybody believe that he would have killed the fans in the stands if he didn't think they'd be wished back? Like, death had no consequence. By that time, death had no consequence in Dragon Ball. I'm just saying, like, does anybody just truly believe that he didn't say, oh, we're going to fix the shit? Damn, does anybody believe that Goku didn't believe that we could wish these motherfuckers back with the Dragon Balls? I mean, like, I hate to spoil the surprise, but in Dragon Ball, there are 7 wish-granting orbs that can actually bring people back to life multiple times. I'm just saying. I'm just Saiyan. But the heel turn just had no consequences. The only consequence, and this is the important part of it, the only consequences it had to the character. And I'm going to make that point a little bit later on, but let's continue.
Thought process in doing so. This is tremendously compelling character writing, and it's largely why Vegeta was the best character by far, in my estimation, during the Buu Saga. For those that are interested in a more complex nuance of character writing, Vegeta underwent during this section of the story a miniature negative change arc, something that's specifically called a fall arc. In this arc, the character starts out just as he would in a positive change arc, already entrenched in the lie. But unlike the positive change arc, in which he will eventually overcome the lie and embrace the truth, the protagonist in the fall arc will reject every chance for embracing the truth and will fall more and more deeply into the madness of his own sins. Usually,
okay, so this is where I think a lot of people misconceive Toriyama's just haphazard way of doing writing that he does. They literally think that was super planned out ahead of time. Yeah, the story beats may have been there, but I doubt it was completely there, and I doubt it was the Marvel piece of Marvel piece. No, I doubt it was the centerpiece of the whole planning that, oh yeah, we're going to make this look all cool. The most tragic part of that death scene, and I know Totally Not Mark did a video on it, like, what was the best version of the death scene, wasn't the fact that he died, wasn't the fact he said bye to everybody. It was the fact that he said, damn, I've never helped my son. He never actually felt that he had the right for somebody to care about him. That was his problem. He felt inadequate to be cared about. That's why he asked Piccolo, hey, if I do this, will my sins be forgiven? That's what Vegeta was. The ability to forgive himself for feeling like he was a piece of shit that nobody should really care about. Yes, he cared about his family. Yes, he wanted to make sure that his family was safe, but to him, at that point, he was Kratos. Ironic, because like Game Sense will say, it seems like Kratos was taking fathering lessons from Vegeta. But let's continue.
Usually dragging others along with him. His story will end in insanity, obsessive immorality, or death. And this was what made Dragon Ball Z's Vegeta so captivating. Because death doesn't carry as much weight as it would in other shows, which normally is a bad thing because of its perceived shortcomings and stakes, the upside that we get to see in this instance is that we get to mix and meld varying character archetypes together, resulting in Vegeta redeeming himself in the afterlife, resulting in a completely fulfilled, positive change character arc by the end, having admitted to be less.
And this is one of the fucking things that I fucking hate about a lot of analysis about this moment. This is what I hate about it. This is the fuck I hate about it. Because it totally misses that whole conversation. Because that was part of a two-part conversation. That was part of the end of the fight that he had. Well, 3 parts you can actually say. The end of the fight with Cell, where he says, you die to make sure and everybody fucking loves you, Kakarot. That was part of it. The other one was when he was actually fighting Goku, when he was having that battle with Goku, saying that, hey, I wanted to be stronger than you. And it wasn't that he wanted to be stronger than Goku. He just wanted to feel as if he deserved the family that he got. That's what my interpretation is. And the third part of that battle, it was, can I finally be redeemed if I do this? Would I be able to go to the afterlife and beat the shit out of Kakarot repeatedly, daily, for funds this time? And that's the reason why Vegeta threw away his life in that moment. Yes, maybe he can get redemption. That's why he threw it away. That's why he felt the way he did. But a lot of fans miss that. Vegeta knew what the cost was. He knew going there without Goku that he wasn't strong enough to be the dominant. But what he said is, fuck it. I'm going to give up my life. Then maybe I would have forgiveness. But let's continue.
Faster than Goku as a fighter, but realizing that he is just as rich as he in the areas that actually matter. And that was the power of Dragon Ball's writing back in the day.
And yeah, this is the other part. He never said that I'm not going to no longer try to beat Kakarot. No, he says that you're ahead of me now, Kakarot, but you won't be for long. You will never stay ahead of me. And there is much to do about the fact that Vegeta always being a half a step. Vegeta in times is noticeably stronger than Goku. That's not what his weakness lies. His weakness is, would I ever feel as if I've done enough? But let's continue.
I believe through and through Vegeta was the most consistently compelling and well-written character the entire series ever put to paper. Now, let's see how Dragon Ball Super handled it. One of the major things people enjoyed about Vegeta
So, let's just talk about the characterization that people actually miss with Dragon Ball Super. First of all, the very first thing Vegeta did was recognize he was scared shitless from Beerus. Scared shitless. Now, in both the movie adaptation and the series adaptation, Vegeta did something that he would not do even with Frieza. Vegeta was respectful to Lord Beerus. Not just, I'm going to do what you say because you may kill me respectful and I'm going to be mad about it. He was quite literally respectful as shit to Lord Beerus. You don't see that from Vegeta. You can say, oh, he was cucked, oh, he was being a beta. But in the end, it was one of those things where it's just like, hey, no, this motherfucker, I'm going to make sure he stays nice and calm to the point that he would do humiliating shit in order to make sure that was a thing. But, and you see that throughout Super. Like, throughout Super, let's be honest, Vegeta was cucked in two ways. And I'm not going to actually down him. First, Whis took his wife out that she paid for to eat almost any time. And that kind of led me to a thing where it's just like, do you think Boom and Vegeta just be having the funniest fucking part? Is like, are you jealous your wife is taking a handsome alien out to eat? And he was like, I don't give a fuck about that. I was just saying, the way he said it, he's like, I don't give a fuck about that. I don't know. Oh. But anyway, one of the things in Supers in and I you see it with my picture. If you ever go to my Etsy page, Vegeta as Pai Mei, Vegeta became a totally different character. Now, was he still the badass brawler that just was like, "Yo, I'm I'm mean, I'm bad"? Of course. But was the anger there? Was the rage? He let that shit get out of hand one time that he felt disrespected as a Saiyan, and Hit promptly whooped his ass because fuck you. I got time powers. But let's continue.
In the original Dragon Ball story was that you never really knew what would happen with him. He had this impulsive mentality that promoted moments of great tension. In short, he was an active character that while he was on screen or had something to say or do, he would be moving the story forward, to the benefit or to the detriment of the main cast, depending on how he was feeling. However, in Dragon Ball Super, he is very much different. Very different. And strangely enough, he's different because he doesn't change. He doesn't grow much at all. Oddly enough, he's different because he relentlessly persists in staying the exact same way he has been since the beginning. And
again, context is important. Dragon Ball Super, over a year. Dragon Ball Z, over 12 years. Now, we're also going to have a conversation. Vegeta changed a shit ton a lot. He changed a lot. Now, see, I know a lot of people that say there was some regression from him when at the end of the Buu saga to the beginning of the Z. No. For the first time ever after Battle of Gods, Vegeta actually requested to learn from someone else. Like, there is demeaning shit and there is humiliating shit. There is shit that you do that is just laugh at the poor guy, laugh at him. And then there's some I don't even respect you as a person. Yes. Beerus, and to some extent, Whis, basically made Vegeta the butts of many jokes and visual gags for the audience and all that other good shit. But in the end, they never demeaned him like you would see with Frieza. They also welcomed him learning at their fucking planet. And just my headcanon, I wouldn't be surprised if, and I've said this to people before, Goku becomes integral in the multiverse by being the Grand Priest, man at large, kind of like something akin to what you see in Super Dragon Ball Heroes, and Vegeta becoming a god of destruction. Because one thing that you can actually see Vegeta learning is, one, and he's actually learned this, is duty. Before, the prince was a title, now it's a requirement. And I say this as, you can have the title of the prince, but to act as a king, that's different. And in Super, Vegeta started acting like a king, doing things where it was so much so the issue with Frieza coming back to life. Yes, he handed Frieza his shit, metaphorical and physical. But it was never, it was some revenge. But it was also like, no, go back to hell, never come back. I've humiliated you by showing you what the fuck a Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan or Super Saiyan Blue is. and go back to hell. Now, because of the way the story was written, didn't get the kill, but you actually see him just growing, because before he would have tortured the shit out of Frieza and made that beating last a little bit longer. But it was like, no, fuck you, go back to being dead. Didn't work out. The Universal 6 tournament and the lead up to that, it was, I have to fucking learn. Like, we have to fucking get better with this shit. We have to get stronger. I have to fucking learn. And you actually see him being just striving to work better. That scene where he was at when Goku first gets there and he was like, okay, I've doubled your weight. And Vegeta actually takes the time to go train through it and work harder through it. It's really just like, I have to learn. I have to be better. And, it started to pay off for him. Because he was if you remember the anime, he was the first to figure out the Super Saiyan Blue kind of the God key into Super Saiyan. But let's continue.
This is, in essence, because the structure of Dragon Ball Super was exceptionally unambitious, flat, and, at times, somewhat vapid. Now, don't get me wrong, Dragon Ball Super has delivered some extraordinarily strong episodes like Episode 47, which delivered tons of character.
And see, this is what I don't see. It's just like, it was more than that. And I guess it was I don't know, is it the fact that it's being streamed almost on a weekly basis and the story is getting pushed through? Is that what people were missing? Because I saw the ups and the downs, but let's continue.
Character-rich dialogue, setups, and debuts. However, the very person who wrote that episode, Atsuhiro Tomioka, also wrote episode 67, which was widely considered one of the most uninspired, confused, rushed, and poorly executed endings the entire series has seen. While doing research for this video, I found a terrific quote. What the novice writer mistakes for craft is simply his unconscious absorption of story elements from every novel, film, or play he's ever encountered. As they write, they match their work by trial and error against a model built up from accumulated reading and watching.
Okay. And this is one of the things this is the reason why I wanted to respond to this video. So let's go.
The schooled writer calls this instinct, but it's merely habit and it's rigidly limiting, leading to them either imitating their mental prototype or imagine themselves in the avant-garde and rebels against it. What this means is when someone new to the series watches Dragon Ball Z, they leave believing it's successful because of climaxes like Gohan vs. Cell or sacrifices like Piccolo and Vegeta have made. But in reality, it's the structure that laid the groundwork for those instances to matter as much as they did. And what happens when you remove all of the emotional meaning and weight behind an action, hoping that it on its own is enough to make the scene amazing? You get scenes like this.
Okay, so this is what kind of kills me about fans. A lot of fans, they complain that they want something new, but yet it still want to see some of the things that some of the same things that they've seen before. That quote, that incrimination is, it's slightly mystifying because we're all products of the things that we've seen before in the past. We're all products of the fact that these are past works of art that we've actually been privy to, that we've actually experienced in the past. That's what the absorption of culture is. No one just fully forms an idea from out of the ether. Quite literally, Dragon Ball wouldn't exist without Journey to the West. But to say like, oh, you have to hit the story beats or you have to do a different beat from what it was before, if they're unskilled or a novice writer, then this is what they do. And I find that kind of insulting because we don't know how much Toriyama told the writing staff or where he started, where he ended. And to actually just use a piece of what has been history and scenes that have been history from the past and say, well, you're just doing it because it worked before. That was the point of actually bringing it up, because we wanted to make reference to something that was done before. And it wasn't just some arbitrary raising of the stakes. It was literally, hey, we need to do this to show where this emotional string was last time. But let's continue.
Or, if you want another example, you get this. Moreover, the very presence and failure of these scenes' ability to stand on their own or to live up to the standard of the originals that they're based on only serve to highlight Dragon Ball Super's shortcomings more. The interest and awe that came from the original scenes these were based on did not come from the simple spectacle it provided so readily, but from the emotional meaning and
I hate that comparison about, well, when he first did the final explosion, that had more weight than what it was then. Never actually completely paying attention to the scene. In that scene in Dragon Ball Super, when Vegeta did the final explosion, it wasn't that I'm going to blow myself up to win the tournament and now I show myself that I'm redeemed. No. It was a visual callback. Yes, a callback to what happened before. But it was in direct contrast to somebody who says, I have to win at all costs. That's what Vegeta did when he first did the final explosion. But when he saw a ugly reflection of giving it all up for the win, he said, no, I'm going to use a tool. I'm going to use this tool that I was at. And he said, he's like, why did you give up your pride in your justice? Never do that. And that's one of the key things. Yes, people say that Vegeta didn't change much throughout Super. One of the key things that he always did without Super, throughout the whole of Super, was never forget who you are and let that pain make you stronger. He said it in the Universe 6 arc to Kappa, when he literally says, at that point where he's going to be the strongest and the baddest, he saw somebody who he says, you're good. You can be better. He showed him better. And he said, never forget this pain. And instead of saying, well, I'm going to be just as strong as you. No, be better. Have pride in your strength and find a reason for your strength to have pride. Vegeta, for a while, lost his pride of his strength. But when he found it, people understood. But let's continue.
Change of heart it represented in the characters acting these scenes out. To expand on this point further, I'd like to take a look at this quote from Hayao Miyazaki. The major source for Japanese animation is manga, whose greatest characteristic is its method of expression centered on emotions. In order to express emotions, space and time are freely distorted. This was a quote taken from a larger interview Miyazaki conducted as he lamented and explained his thoughts on the popularity anime has garnered in the West and across the globe. I'm a huge admirer of Miyazaki's work and animation philosophy. My interpretation of this quote is that anime's expression of emotion is so potent because of its grand, sensational sense of scope afforded to it by its stories.
I would have to say no. It is coming from an artist. It's definitely coming from an artist. Points where he's like, the most important thing about anime is expressiveness. Not necessarily. Yes, you can get the expressiveness and distortion of the human face, form, and body with anime, especially like something that a lot of people, Devilman Crybaby. It's just like you see this expressiveness that happens, but it's also about the ability to go that extra mile. But let's continue. And Miyazaki isn't always the best when it comes to works of art and anime. He has some hits, he has some misses. But let's continue.
To the nature of its medium. In other words, when someone is sad, angry, or happy in anime, it's accentuated to deliver the strongest impact it can. And that's the difference between Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball Z's Vegeta. Hayao Miyazaki, much like myself and many others, don't care much for spectacle unless there's an emotional weight behind it. And it's for that reason I care much more for Vegeta's character during the Buu Saga than I did during his time in the Tournament of Power. It is for that very reason I am interested keenly in this moment from Vegeta's story, and I'm not interested at all in this one from Dragon Ball Super. To further bolster this line of criticism,
but this is what I don't get. In Dragon Ball Super, the Future Trunk art, yeah, they did the tired Vegeta's behind Goku thing, but god damn, when you saw the fight that he had between him and Trunks, is reminiscent of the Boo and Little Kid Trunks fight. But it also is like, he came out and was like, have you not learned anything from what I fucking told you before? Why are you using that stupid form? And when Trunks fainted him, like just did the feint, he was like, that's fucking good. Vegeta throughout Super became a patient motherfucking teacher. And that says a lot for Vegeta. He became a patient fucking teacher to Kaba. Like, it was no, like, do you expect Vegeta to make a promise to say, I want to wish you back, but if I die, you wish me back? Like, for real? Do you expect that from anywhere in a Vegeta that came to Earth, that literally that went to Namek, that let Cell become perfect? Do you expect that from any Vegeta? I'm just wondering. But the whole thing of not, like, I'm going to be the best Saiyan, of course you expect that from Vegeta. But I'm going to be the best Saiyan and challenge me. Come on, you can be better. So much so it's like, you remind me of the king. Like, it was attached to the mission that, yeah, Vegeta is acting like a king. You remind me of the king of Sadala. That's what freaking Kaba said to him. But let's continue.
Criticism for those that might disagree with it, I ask you, what has changed about Vegeta or his current situation since the end of Battle of Gods? The answer is very, very little, and the troubles with that can be seen.
Again, going back to being that patient motherfucking teacher. Quite literally. And yes, I know we saw it before with fucking Piccolo and Gohan. But he went from being wanting to be the best to being a patient fucking teacher. Like, you don't see, like, You don't see that. And not only that, he went to say, take the woman you care about and protect yourself. I got this shit. He went from berating him like, hey, why are you running away? You're strong. To like, oh shit, this motherfucker is stronger than we think. It's cool. He went to being super patient. And that's an accomplishment. But let's continue.
Very easily. All of Vegeta's monumental moments in this series are rooted in this archetype of change. Oftentimes positive change and sometimes a negative one, but a change nonetheless. He isn't forced to change in any meaningful emotional way in Dragon Ball Super, but the writers place him in circumstances that are reminiscent of his highlights in Dragon Ball Z in the hopes that they will achieve what they did for him in the past. But they won't. They can't. Structurally speaking, narratively speaking, and logically speaking, they can't work the same way because they are, in the most fundamental ways, different. All the major moments we love from Dragon Ball Z that Vegeta facilitated happen to coincide with key moments from within the structure of a character arc. His ego-focused return to destroy 19, his defense of his son Trunks, his sacrifice. Everything he did, be it good or bad, was informed first and foremost by the character arc structure he was a part of. The Moro arc in the manga is somewhat interesting for some of the reasons I spoke of today, but also others I plan to touch on when I review that arc after it's finished. But in short, while the manga handles his character differently than the anime does, with some major changes, it always finishes the same way. This is the first...
Okay, so, and we're going to wrap this up soon, in a minute. And this, even in a manga art, like, I just... that scene where Vegeta says, like, hey, do you hate me? I killed your people. And it was like, we can't hate you. We may be leery of seeing you, but we don't hate you. And he says, good. And he then turns around and says, I owe them a debt, and I'm going to pay it. And I'm going to kick your ass, Moro, and subsequently get his ass kicked. But it's a sense of, I'm no longer redeeming myself, that he actually tried to do in the later part of Dragon Ball Z. It was, I have a duty as somebody who is as strong as I am and who have did the task that I've done to show people you can be better. And again, a wealth of growth of patience that you saw with him training on planet Yantra. Like, and then when they said, hey, you have, like, yeah, your body and your mind was so far out of sync. This is what happens when they do. He learned fucking patience. I can't wait to see, like, 60 giant copies of Vegeta going around. It's like, yeah, it's the army of Vegeta. But anyway, let's continue.
Arc that has led the way in quite some time in the mangas, and I'm very interested to see the position characters take and the consequences of the arc take a hold of the story once all is said and done. In conclusion, from my perspective, Dragon Ball Super's anime feels exceptionally shallow in a lot of areas. There's zero effort made to create a story that flows outside of its arcs, bar one or two easily missed moments. Vegeta, Gohan, Piccolo, and many other characters in Dragon Ball found much of their success through emotional growth and struggle as it was applied in believable, original, and specific ways over the course of a long, winding narrative. Vegeta acting as he does in Super will never achieve what it did for him in the original story. It's tone deaf.
Alright, so I'm gonna end the video here. It's just like, Super was not Z. Don't ask for a Z level of change and then expect Super to be different enough that you get those Z levels of change, but unfamiliar with the changes that they did or recognize the ones that they were. I don't know, guys. This isn't like a quick video for me. I will say this. I really think that the hatred or the apathy, because that's what it really is, the apathy that you see from Super to Z, a lot of cats just don't remember that one, it's a totally different schedule. And you can actually see it in real time with the difference between the Naruto series and the Boruto series. That's even that's even worse. Like some of the things that like you see with these people when they see the sequel series and the series that they have now, it's just wow. Super was a great series compared to what we have a lot in these sequel series or even anime in general. But it wasn't exactly Dragon Ball Z. And I get that people were upset about it not being exactly Dragon Ball Z. But let's be honest. Super was a great fucking series. And the characterization that was in Super in some cases were just fucking awesome.